It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live,
the Bostonian versus the Book. Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the Book.
Here he is, Matt Perrault!
Enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show.
What's up, Brigade? How are you? Happy Tuesday. Welcome into a new episode of the Bostonian versus the Book. Today, well, we're going to be joined by the one and only Coach James Young. My name is Matt Perrault. We're going to talk to Coach JY about the NBA and college basketball. We've got some opening lines where we're going to talk about 3 conference tournament final bets that I've made that I like for tonight as we get into March. Here we go. With tickets being punched, we've got the Big 12 tournament starting. We've got other conference tournaments starting across the country. And then really tomorrow and really Thursday, Friday, all the way till Sunday. And we get to Selection Sunday and we find out who is in and who is out. There's been other years where the bubble has been far more interesting than this year. The bubble's kind of boring. Like the teams we're talking about, Miami of Ohio is the most interesting team. But if they're not in, we got a problem because they're 31-0 and they very much should be in the tournament, regardless of what all the naysayers are saying about Miami of Ohio. 31 up, 31 down. They won them all. They're in. In my book, it doesn't matter what happens in their conference tournament. They're in, but they could just go and win the thing and punch the ticket, and then there's no conversation. They are in to the conference tournament. So we'll get to all that coming up with JY here in about 30 minutes. We'll spend time on NFL free agency. Obviously, yesterday, a major day. The Raiders got the hat, just won't stop spending. Good for them. 5 new players added for the Raiders as they are looking to completely revamp their entire team. Plus, they have the number 1 pick coming up here in the draft in April. So we'll look at winners and losers for the NFL first day of free agency as we'll jump down the rabbit hole with our friends from Rabbit Bet. We'll get into another controversy. News of the industry is not good. It's a soccer scandal in America that we'll get into. Another lifetime ban handed out by a league to players who are fiddling around with sports betting and getting themselves caught. And it's another black eye for the sports betting industry that we'll get to coming up a little bit later on in the program. We will talk some NBA basketball betting as well on the day today. But one quick programming note to tell you guys as we start the show here on Tuesday. If you are watching live for Sports Grid, this doesn't matter. So the replay on Sports Grid is at 1 a.m. Eastern every night. 10 p.m. Pacific. It doesn't matter when we go live, but if you are someone who comes over and you're part of the live chat, Friday's show is going to be early. It's going to be at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. So that's 2 hours earlier than we normally go. Yes, we'll have a guest. Adam Bjorn is going to go from Thursday's program to Friday's program. We're going to do that. So stay tuned for, normally he's on Thursday, but he's traveling. We're going to go early on Friday because I'm traveling. We won't have a show next Monday and Tuesday live. We'll be off. I'm headed for a quickie spring break thing. I'm heading on over to New England to jump on over for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So 5 days jumping over there while I don't have class at UNLV on Monday and Wednesday. So I'm going to try to scoot over and take care of some business. We got some stuff going on in the East Coast that I'm going to go take care of. So that will be no Monday, no Tuesday show. BvB will come back next Wednesday. But for Friday, for this week, programming note, everything's the same for Wednesday, Thursday. But Friday, live at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. will be a morning show on the East Coast. Morning show always on the West Coast, but morning show on the East Coast coming up on Friday. For those of you who have been wondering, by the way, tomorrow is the official start of the new league year. And to celebrate, Fitzy and Emerson are both coming in again with us for a 3-box 30-minute conversation about the NFL and everything happening in Emerson's life. Emerson and my daughter have bonded over really inappropriate jokes, and we'll talk about it because my daughter made some really funny lines during the UFC. She watched almost the entire UFC card with me. And if you guys watched that card, you saw Emerson Latzia, I don't know, like every other break for DraftKings doing ads. And my daughter was making comments like, Emerson looks like somebody who'd be doing cocaine at 3:00 in the morning. And so I was sending those messages to Emerson during the UFC card saying, my daughter thinks you look like you could be doing cocaine at 3:00 in the morning. And Emerson was like, yes. He was like, yes. And they were going back and forth. So I'm excited to talk to Emerson about Madeline and her opinions of Emerson when he's doing his DraftKings ads. And then we will get Fitzy on board as well from WEEI in Boston. So that's going to be fun tomorrow. We're doing that on tomorrow's show. Thursday, I think Casey Hudson from Nesson, kind of keeping the New England Boston theme going. We're trying to find the right time for Casey to jump on the show to talk hockey with us. We haven't talked hockey in a while, so that's going to be Thursday's program. So we're loaded for the rest of the week. So today, James Young, Coach Young joining us for NBA and college basketball. Tomorrow, Fitzy Emerson. Thursday, Casey Hudson. Friday, Adam Bjorn with an early start time for BvB. So a lot of things to get to on the week as we head, but no show Monday, Tuesday, and then back live on Wednesday before we get to the NCAA tournament and St. Patrick's Day and everything else that goes into spring break across the country for colleges, including even me as an adjunct professor at UNLV. We get rolling. We start today, though, with 3 bets in college basketball on championship games tonight that I like. All right, opening line. This is a fun time of the year for anybody who is looking at college basketball betting because we get championship games. We have a ton of data. And like I told you guys last week, I actually think that there is better betting opportunities this week than next week. And next week is awesome, right? You come to Vegas. I'll be here. I know I've gotten a bunch of messages from you guys. Chicago Kristen, Chicago John are coming to town this weekend. I apologize. I won't be here, but I know there's a bunch of you are also from the brigade who are coming to town for the first and second rounds of the NCAA tournament. I will be here. I have my daughter, so I don't know how mobile I'll be, but I'll try my best. Really, Friday, next weekend, the weekend after, the first weekend of the tournament, second round, I'll be around for sure. I'll be bopping around for different sports books here in Vegas, but Thursday, Friday, I may not be all that accessible, but I'll try my best to come over. I've gotten a bunch of DMs from folks saying like, hey, can I buy you a beer? And you don't need to do that, but I'll just come on down and say hi and just hang out and watch some basketball with everybody. So if you are coming to Vegas, drop me a line. If you guys don't know, askthebvb@gmail.com. That's our email address. If you want to just send me an email and say, hey, Matt, I'm coming to town. You can always send us a text message. Don't call this number, but text this number at 702-570-8255 and give me an update as to what's going on. And I'll try my best to set up a meeting at some point somewhere for all of us to get going. But let's talk tonight. Here in Vegas, we've got the West Coast Conference Tournament Final, and it's not what we thought it was going to be. We thought this was going to be another rematch between St. Mary's and Gonzaga. It is not. The 3-seed Santa Clara, I don't even know what Santa Clara's nickname is, but they bombed threes last night against St. Mary's, and they knocked out the Gales, and they're gone. This conference is set up for St. Mary's to play Gonzaga every year here in Vegas. And the fan bases, I mean, my God, if you want to go to the game tonight, there's going to be so many tickets available because all the St. Mary's folks are going home. So you're going to have a ton of tickets available for the West Coast Conference Final at the Orleans here in Las Vegas. But Gonzaga is up to a 7.5-point favorite in this game, and the total is up to 157.5. I got to admit, I'm pretty surprised that the number is climbing just because it feels like this is, to steal Adam Bjorn's line, it feels like a data play where it's just going to be all about the public. And the public is going to come in and they're going to wind up betting on Gonzaga just because they think it's going to be an easy walk in the park for Gonzaga. and I just don't really agree with it. I think this is going to be a really fun matchup. I think Santa Clara is live to win this game, and I think we're going to see a brawl tonight between these two teams. You look at the numbers for Gonzaga, they're 17-15 ATS, but in conference, they're underwater ATS-wise in conference. They're 9-10. Santa Clara is 12-8 in the West Coast Conference ATS-wise, and they're a team at 17-14-1 this year. They're a team that if they get hot from the three-point line, like they've been in this tournament, like I think the over might be in play with this game. I think Santa Clara can keep on shooting at 157.5. This game could go over. Gonzaga wants to kind of play a slower tempo, obviously, and kind of bleed the clock. But I think Santa Clara, I got Gonzaga on upset alert coming up here tonight. They're in the tournament. So St. Mary's most likely is in the tournament. So most likely they're a 2-bid league, but the West Coast Conference might turn into a 3-bid league if Santa Clara can get the W tonight and win. So I think this is going to be interesting. So Ish is saying he likes the under on this. I like Santa Clara plus the points. And this thing's been climbing for most of the morning. It's been 7.5 or 6.5 at open. It's 7.5 now. I think this is a fade. Butchie, what's up, dude? How are you? We haven't seen you in the chat in a while. Good to see you. Yeah, let them bet it. I agree. Let them just bet the thing up and then take the dog. Take the 7.5. It might go to 8. It might go to 9. These teams played 2 times during the regular season. Gonzaga won both games, but Gonzaga only covered once here in this game. So I like tonight, late night, if you're looking for something action-wise on the West Coast Conference tournament final tonight, Santa Clara and Gonzaga, I like the dog. I'm taking Santa Clara at plus 7.5. The Horizon final, I don't know what got into me last night, but I was like bopping around and I watched the semifinal in which Detroit Mercy beat Robert Morris. I don't think Detroit Mercy is a good basketball team. I just got to call a spade a spade. I don't think they're really any good. They were fortunate to beat Robert Morris. I thought Robert Morris played really poorly, missed a bunch of shots they should have hit, missed free throws that they should have hit, turned the basketball over in times. I thought Detroit Mercy was lucky to win the game last night, and Robert Morris kind of was, they lost the game versus Detroit Mercy winning the game. And I think Wright State's got a pretty good shot here of winning the game, maybe not easily, but I do think that they win the game coming up here tonight. You got a 19-9-1 Detroit ATS-wise, pretty good. 16-6 ATS-wise, pretty good. Wright State, though, 19-12 against the number, 14-8 in conference. Both these teams have been hot here in the tournament. 4 straight covers for Wright State, 3 straight covers for Detroit. 8-2 over the last 10 for Detroit, so they're definitely hot, but they've played 2 games in this tournament already, and I think Wright just has more offensive firepower. I don't like the defense for Detroit. The metrics are really bad for Detroit Mercy. Wright's got, I think, a big offensive advantage here tonight. So I laid the 4.5 with Wright State. I think that they come through and get a W here tonight. The number 1 seed team in the Horizon gets a W. They punch the ticket, and I think they cover the 4.5 points here tonight. I don't know about the total of 151.5. I'm staying away from that. I don't really know how that's going to go, but I do think this is going to be a fun game, but I like Wright State to get the W. And then finally, we're going to the Metro Atlantic, the MAAC for the East Coast folks, not the Midwest folks, but the Metro Atlantic. So full disclosure, MAAC is a team that I tend to watch more closely than probably any other tiny school. This is not a mid-major. This is a tiny school. MAAC is based in North Andover, Massachusetts. I am from Andover, Massachusetts. My little brother pitched for a season for MAAC College baseball. I grew up going to MAAC College basketball camp every single year. I went and played in the same gym when MAAC went to D1. They were still playing in the same gym that I went and played my games. And when you played a big game at Andover High in Andover High School sports, you went and played at MAAC. Big hockey games were played at the MAAC rink. They've made improvements to the MAAC rink, but it's pretty much the same rink that when I was growing up that was there. I watched Merrimack win the Division II hockey championship. I was there with my dad. It's probably the best sporting memory I have with my father of watching Merrimack win that championship when I think I was 7 years old or 8 years old watching Merrimack. And so I have a lot of warm feelings towards Merrimack College. They are the number 1 seed in this conference. They are taking on Siena here in the final with a chance to go to the NCAA tournament. Merrimack, KenPom has this as a 2-point win for Merrimack tonight. Okay. The number is 3.5, open at 2.5, was bet to 3.5. But I'm looking at the total. So the Missouri Valley Conference final between Northern Iowa and University of Illinois Chicago was this low, was 125. And the game flew over. It was 48-41 at halftime. The game went over like with half the second half left. I don't think we're going to get that type of game. But these teams played twice in the regular season. The first time it went under. The second time it flew over by 17.5 points. Just way, way over. Championship games, everyone thinks that because the first 2 games for each of these teams went under, that means we're going to get the under again between these 2 teams. I don't agree. I think this game goes over. And even though the numbers 22-11 to the under for Siena, 21-12 to the under for Merrimack College. When you go on the road, it's 15-7, 13-7 to the under. The last 5 games have gone under for Siena, and the last 2 games for Merrimack have gone under. I just think people just look at this and go, okay, it's going to go under. The first game went under, second game went over. It did go to overtime, and that's why it went over. It was 79-72. But when it comes to championship games, we get fouls at the end. We get coaches taking tons of timeout. Like, you bleed the clock a lot. You bleed the clock over, I don't know, the last 5 minutes of the game because you don't want your season to end. Because for one of these 2 teams, their season's going to end, right? Siena, unless they're going to go and continue and play, and a lot of these teams aren't interested in playing in the Crown or other, small tournaments now that's not the NCAA tournament, you either punch your ticket or you're done. 124.5 to me just seems a little bit too low. That just seems to be a little bit too low for me on this. I like Merrimack, but I'll bet the over. So plays for today, Santa Clara plus 7.5 up against Gonzaga, going against the public and how everyone's going to bet the Zags. I like Wright State in the Horizon final, laying 4.5 points, and I'll take the over for Merrimack and Siena in the MAAC tournaments in the Metro Atlantic, over 124.5. Like I mentioned before, I think I have more fun betting right now. I have more fun betting the conference tournaments than I do betting the NCAA tournament because the numbers are so much sharper. There are so many more variables in an NCAA tournament than a conference tournament. We have head-to-head games to look at. We have stats and data that actually apply. And this is not a team flying across the country, playing at a weird time in a strange gym on national TV, trying not to embarrass themselves. Like, I've seen it personally. I've seen these teams when they go to the NCAA tournament play so unlike themselves because they are distracted by everything going around the NCAA tournament. It is such a different beast than betting right now. I think the conference tournaments, if you do the research and really dig down deep, you can make money right now. Last week and this week, you can make money. If you're a Big 12 basketball fan, there's 4 games today. I don't really know what to do with the Big 12 games. I'm just kind of being honest. I looked at all of them. And I mean, Baylor and Arizona State, I don't mind Baylor. Kansas State and BYU, I would lean BYU. I have no idea what to do with Oklahoma State and Colorado. Those are 2 bad basketball teams playing against each other. We've got the ACC tournament going on. And what do you do with Pittsburgh and Stanford? This is a day, the first round of the big boy tournaments, I don't like to bet. I like to wait and to get some ideas of how these teams are going to approach the overall environment. Frankly, I want to see what the court's going to do in the Big 12 at the T-Mobile Center. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the all-glass court that they've got going at the Big 12 tournament. I don't know why. Can we just play basketball, please? Like, what are we screwing with the floor for? So I know it's kind of a weird thing to say it affected my handicap, but it does. They're playing on a court we've never played on before. So what does that do? Does the ball bounce differently? Do the guys jump differently? Do they land differently? Does it feel different on their feet? Like I'm not comfortable with what the Big 12 did with this tournament and changing the floor at the T-Mobile Arena. So I want to watch these games before I'm getting involved in putting money down. I got to see what this court looks like for the Big 12 tournament and how it impacts. It may mean nothing. It might not bother anybody. It may be fine, but I want no part of any of that. Did I see who I did see? Well, she is in the chat. Look at that. Amanda's in the chat today. She told me to change my outfit. That's what the reference to that is. She told me to change my outfit. She's like, the shirt I was wearing. If you watch, I did a show for Betting Pros this morning. I did a college basketball show. Same bets I just gave you guys. But she said, you did a show with that shirt on? I said, yeah. She goes, that's awful. She goes, change that. You can't do a TV show. You can't go on Sports Grid with that outfit. Like, cut it out. So that was the reference to that. And then there was somebody else who was asking a question. There we go. W Punch Drunk. Birthday present for my kids. Red Sox home game in July against the Blue Jays. Never been before. Any tips? Well, I can't. Do me a favor. As I said, send us an email. askthebvb@gmail.com. Send me an email. I'll give you a laundry list of things to do. I'll tell you a bunch of stuff that you should do. See, the boys liked it, Amanda. The boys liked the shirt. I thought it was a good outfit. I liked it. I thought it was like a lumberjack going to work type outfit. And she was like, no. She's like, it doesn't look good. I liked it. I thought it worked personally, but she wasn't a fan of that. But yeah, send me an email. I'll give you the whole itinerary, what to do with your first game at Fenway. I'll say this: be willing to show up early. Be willing to go to Fenway Park early, because you absolutely should go and experience everything at and around Fenway Park. I'm biased, okay? I grew up there, but in terms of unique smells that are just epic around Fenway Park in July, the food vendors, the people, everything, it's just baseball. Like, the only way I can describe it is it's just what baseball was supposed to be, what it was supposed to smell like, what it was supposed to sound like. Everything about Fenway Park. I feel like people always talk about, like, where do they want to be buried? Like, where do you take your ashes if you're cremated, and where do they want to be sprinkled? Like, Fenway, I am so happy when I am at Fenway Park. When I'm watching a Red Sox game in the sunshine, it just does something to me. And I haven't gone to nearly as many Red Sox games as I want to go to. And I've never been a Red Sox season ticket holder, but I'm pretty confident later in my life, I will try to find a way to be a Red Sox season ticket holder and go to the games consistently. Because once Madeline's grown and gone, when you sit through the brutal winters in New England, you need some type of payoff for doing that. And the amazing Fenway Park experience, I'll put it up against anything in sports. I'll put it up against anything that I've ever experienced, any venue I've gone to, any game I've attended, any event I've covered. Fenway is bucket list stuff that everybody who loves sports should get a chance to go to. So congratulations on that. Good job out of your family. And look, Vinny, I love Wrigley. I went to 2 games at Wrigley last year, 0 at Fenway. I didn't go to Fenway last year, but I went to 2 games at Wrigley. So yeah. Oh, look at Mikey's going in April. See, April's a little tough, Mikey. I'm gonna cross my fingers for Mother Nature. Okay. I hope that she's awesome. And we love you too, buddy. You're the best. By the way, I love that when I open my phone at like 2:00 in the morning and like there's all these DMs from Mikey. He's sending me all these videos on Instagram. It's awesome. He sends me like these really funny stuff in the middle of the night, coming up, and I'm like, oh, there we go. Nice job, Mikey. Let's jump down the rabbit hole and talk about NFL free agency. All right, the rabbit hole being brought to you by Rabbit, the Rabbit app. New users can get 5 free Rabbit Cash when you guys use that promo code Rabbit5. You're going to create and challenge your friends with customized sports picks. You're going up against your buddies, not your friends. You're taking your chat. You're taking your group chat. taking your bar conversation, you're taking all your smack talk and going to Rabbit and making your plays against your friends. There's also free-to-play games that are available and soon to be some cool things that we're going to give away. Be listening because we've got giveaways coming in the next couple of weeks with Rabbit. They are very Frank and Mark, the brothers who own Rabbit, they've been on the show before. They've got a really cool idea coming down the pike for us with the brigade for giveaways and other cool stuff. You guys love free stuff. They're going to give you free stuff with Rabbit. Download it today in the Google Play or the Apple Store for Rabbit and use the code Rabbit5 at sign up for 5 free Rabbit cash. Let's talk about winners and losers here for NFL free agency, because this is a day in which yesterday was a fire hose. Today is a little bit of a trickle in terms of who is going to be signed. But I mentioned the Raiders, and they spent $1 bazillion. They gave Tyler Lindenbaum, a center, $81 million, including $60 million in guarantees, making him the highest paid interior offensive lineman in NFL history. So look at, if you have lots of cap space and you are number one, over $100 million, and you had the worst offensive line in football, and you have the number one pick in which you're going to draft a rookie quarterback to come in and play most likely right away, this is the most logical, like, duh thing to do, right? If you have to overpay, you overpay. But you have to get the best offensive line. They're going to kick out JPJ, who was a center last year, going to kick him to guard, which will help the offensive line there. So now you've got a new dynamic center. You've got a good guard. They'll got to figure out what they're going to do with the right tackle spot. It feels like they're going to keep some continuity with the left tackle and then look to address the other side for the guard as well. But that is a much different offensive line and a much better offensive line for the Raiders than what they had last year, where they got simply tattooed and beaten up by anybody and everybody who played the Raiders. Geno Smith didn't help. Geno Smith threw $1 bazillion picks, so it didn't help that Geno Smith was the quarterback. But now you have a different player under center who's going to need time, and I mean both in practice and during the games, to dissect defenses and to learn the speed of the NFL game. So the biggest winner yesterday, the Raiders did a really good job. Nakobe Dean from the Philadelphia Eagles is now a Raider. We talked to Nakobe Dean at the Super Bowl, and we talked to him about what type of player he was going to be. So that was a little bit of a fortuitous break that he was out there going into a free agent year, talking about his future and what he was looking for and the type of player that he is. When he is healthy, Nakobe Dean's an absolute beast. He's a beast. Really good addition to that defense for the Raiders. I mean, the other stuff, Kwity Paye, we'll see what he looks like. Quay Walker, they revamped their linebacking core. Quay Walker's a very good player as well. Jalen Naylor, new wide receiver to throw to, $35 million deal with $23 million guaranteed for this. It's pretty interesting. You know what's funny, by the way, about what happened yesterday? I don't know if how you guys feel about this, but did you notice that now the agents are getting credited with the signing by all of the beat writers? According to, and the agency is getting publicity. The agency is getting written about. Agents used to be behind the scenes, but in today's era of college, of NIL, and in today's era of social media, now these agents are all trying to be Jerry Maguire, and they all want to be having their face plastered and their name put everywhere. That's a unique little piece to all of this. You can hear it whenever you listen to the NFL Network guys or the ESPN guys. This is information according to so-and-so. Just a unique little twist. Alec Pierce is the highest paid wide receiver in the history of the game. Alec Pierce. I like Alec Pierce a lot. I do. I think him staying with Indy is interesting given the quarterback situation, given Daniel Jones's knee issue, given Daniel Jones, period. I mean, okay, they are giving him a ton of money. Did anybody want to go that high? Maybe not. I don't know. But Alec Pierce, he's excited today, and he should be excited today with how much money he got paid. I mean, he broke the bank, and sticking around last 2 years, he's been the best deep threat. But, we're talking about a lot of money here. 4 years, $116 million for Alec Pierce. Okay, Good wideout, good weapon, top money. Oh, okay. That's a lot of money coming up here for him. We still don't know where Kyler Murray is going to land. We still don't know where he's going to wind up. It looks like it's going to be in Minnesota, but the Cardinals are holding Kyler Murray for as long as they can because they're still trying to get a trade done. They want some level of compensation for Kyler Murray, which, to be quite honest, that makes a ton of sense, right? If you're going to have to eat 50 plus odd million in dead cap money to cut Kyler Murray, the Dolphins got nothing for Tua, and he went and signed with the Falcons. That's $99 million in dead cap money over 2 years, which is ridiculous. But if I'm the Cardinals, yes, give me a 7th round pick. Give me a 6th round conditional pick. I don't care. Just give me something. Let me have some collateral to go ahead and get this. I'm really curious to see how this all plays out. And I really want to see how it all plays out because, frankly, Kyler Murray is the best free agent left. He's a competent quarterback. You can rip him all you want, but he is a competent quarterback. He can play the position, which is more than what we can say about a lot of guys out there who are getting jobs in the NFL. He can play. He's too short. Sure. He's a munchkin. Yep. I'll give you all that. But he's got a killer arm and he's super fast and he's hard to catch. And he's a player who the Raiders, I think, if I'm a Raider fan, I'm signing Kyler Murray today. If he's available, he's going to go to Minnesota. But I would, if I'm the Raiders, I'm going, hold on. We can't start Mendoza game 1. Like, that's a bad idea. We know that Tua is going to go do a reclamation project. Why not do the same thing with Kyler Murray? Go get him. Sign him, have him play like Mac Jones did for the Patriots, have him play for half the year, and then hand things over to the rookie when he's ready to go. We didn't see Drake May play right away for the Patriots. He waited 2 months, and then he played for the Patriots. Same thing should happen for Mendoza. I think throwing that kid to the Wolves in game 1's a bad idea if the Raiders are going to wind up doing that. Eric is asking, how does the offseason stack up for the Raiders like the Patriots? It's very similar. The Patriots hit on all their free agents and they hit on all their draft picks. Let's see what happens here. It's possible that the Raiders, I don't know if they're in the Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback, but it is possible for a big turnaround. The difference between the Patriots and the Raiders, excuse me, is the division. You're playing the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs. Like, you've got 6 games of just like not fair. Okay. It's the toughest division in football. Mahomes will be back at some point during the season. They just kept Travis Kelce. I know they did trade Trent McDuffie, but the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Okay. The Chargers, I think, are going to be a formidable team next year. And then we know what the Broncos are, regardless of what the drama is going on between Bo Nix and Sean Payton. I don't really know what's going on there and whether or not Bo Nix is going to get traded, which is insane to think about, but there is some trouble in paradise there. That is still a very good football team in Denver with a very good coach in Denver. So I don't think the Raiders do a Patriots and go and win the division and win 14 games. The Patriots had a division in which they could beat up on 2 of the 4 teams and they split with the Bills. That's not happening for the Raiders. So I think that's the problem. Just in the comparison, that's the problem. But I do think it's going to be interesting. Could you imagine? Punch Drunk says Cleveland for Murray. That would be wild to see if that were to happen. All right, let's jump back to college basketball here. And we haven't talked to this guy in a while, but we're bringing him on, bringing him back. He's the one and only Coach James Young. JY, good to see you. How are you? Thanks for coming back.
It's good to be back. I haven't talked to you since we on air since we lost our dear friend Dave Sharapan, and I just want to thank you for everything you've done for Dave and his family, and God, we miss him dearly, and just so people know, a lot of how I learned capping and how to try and blend my basketball background with scouting and coaching with books and lines. Folks, that's all Dave Sharapan. That's all Sharapan, the constant phone calls, the texting, the me bothering him trying to understand stuff. So he is gone, but in my eyes, especially what I do, to this day, he's never going to be forgotten.
No, he'll never be gone. He'll never be not part of what I do every day. I there's not a day I don't think of Dave, and through the conversations on this show and there are so many people like you who are on this show because of Dave, not because of me. I met you through Dave. Like, yeah, we both worked at Sports Grid together for a while, but that wasn't why I knew you. I knew you because of what Dave would do, and Dave would talk about you, and Dave loved the fact that you had the basketball acumen, because this is what Dave was so great at. Dave was able to learn. You taught him as much as the other way around, because you taught him basketball. You taught him how to see the game. You taught him how to see it through a coach's eye, which is what I did with Dave from the media perspective. I talked about the media with Dave. He talked to me about sports betting. So he always had that great relationship with people of being able to have it be a two-way street. And he learned from us the same way we learned from him. So really a special time. But I know you've got an announcement that I want you guys to tell the brigade about, because tell me about the newsletter that you have launched. I know you've got put out a couple different articles that are out there for basketball heads heading into March Madness. What are you doing with the newsletter?
Yeah, so I've decided to go a little bit more independently and start a Substack. It's called the coachesedge.substack.com. It's free for the next 6 days or so, folks. I'm not trying to rip people off once it goes behind a paywall. It's literally $5 a month, $50 for the year. It's just me trying to give back to the game that's given so much for me. So you'll get a little bit of everything. You'll get my scouting reports, what I used to do for Sports Grid. They'll kind of be moved over there. There'll be some interesting articles. I wrote an article yesterday about being an assistant coach in this time, how people think about how fun and how glorious it is, but how tough it is as an assistant coach, where you get the conference breakdown of the conference tournament and you got to scout and you got to be a game ahead, and there's adjustments, and then there's pressure, and then there's your head coach who's on you, the sleeping at the office, the 3 a.m. scouting report you're working on. It was so crazy that, Matt, I sent it out, and I actually got a phone call from my former boss, and she said, James, I never knew this was happening. I'm sorry. I said, Jody, that's my job. My job was to help us win. Thank goodness the example I used my first year in the MAAC tournament, we won, because I still remember her wanting to strangle me about 5 times during the game, but then we stole it. One coming out a little bit later on, probably as soon as I get off air with you, I just want to do some quick tweaks. I'm doing one on the bid steal, how crazy it is for how a conference, a whole tournament, NCAA tournament, gets turned upside its head by a bid steal. For instance, I mentioned 2024, NC State making that run through the ACC tournament. I think it was 5 games in 5 days. They weren't supposed to be in the tournament. Well, it impacts a team that couldn't get in. Georgetown with Patrick Ewing in 2021 as an 8 seed running through MSG 4 games, 4 nights, and winning a conference tournament. I talked to you from the lens of all angles. The fan base in regards to a team that really did nothing during the regular season now is playing great at the right time. But then I take you to the other side, the team on the bubble, the team that's watching, and you got coaches that are sitting there looking at their phones because they're watching scores, because that score could in fact impact what they do. So it's a pretty neat article trying to take you back into the coaching room about how we all deal with what we call bid stealing.
Very cool. Looking forward to reading that. And yeah, look at Georgia Southern's run in the Sun Belt tournament. We talked about how wacko that bracket was, and there was no shot for anybody to get to the final. Well, Georgia Southern played 6 games in 6 days and lost to Troy, so it was set up for one of the higher seeds to get there. But we almost had a bid steal there, because you would have had. I guess Troy wouldn't have gotten in anyway, but you would have had those conference tournaments. Like, I guess trying to think about what would be a bid steal from it, because there aren't that many. I mean, how many teams out of the A10 do you have in?
I mean, you could. It would be 2. One to watch. I think they're in now. I think Santa Clara got in, winning last night versus
really.
St. Mary's. I think that's a big win over St. Mary's. As long as they don't get blown out, because St. Mary's is going to get a bid, right? Yeah. As long as and I think a lot of people, Joel Lunardi had them. I think he had them on the first 4 out. Now the last 4 in. That's one of those matchups that teams are going to watch, is that WCC final, because if Santa Clara wins, then that's a bid that's stolen because some people may have them out. There was also a weird, wacky waiver this weekend where every team that was on the last four out, I think they all lost over the weekend. So no one really gave themselves traction, but it's going to be interesting. One other note before we really get into everything is I did another article, which people may think I'm crazy. I called, and I know I'm not first because I want to give credit where credit's due, and that's Rick Pitino and Mike Krzyzewski. I put out there a thought of creating a super mega ACC Big East merger. Why? You bring back some of those old Big East matchups. You bring BC back. I would go grab Rutgers out of the Big Ten because they have a $75 million debt that they have, and so that's not worked out. Maryland, I think, has not worked out for them. Look how they're getting thunder punched every night in the Big Ten. Bring them back to their natural rivalry with Duke and with obviously North Carolina. But also look at how the Big East lately has been getting impacted in regards to number of at-large bids. You look at a team like Seton Hall, that I know they're 0-6 against the top 6 teams of the Big East, but go look at them very closely. They have 2 single-digit losses to UConn. They played extremely competitive versus St. John's. They had a 6-minute stretch right before Christmas. They played really bad versus Villanova, got blown out, got it back within single digits. They're not even talked about as the last 4 in, the first 4 out, or the next 4 out. Well, what happens if they're in a better league like a merged Big East ACC? It also would open up the fact that you now have, there's always rumors, right? SEC, are they going after Florida State? Are they going after Miami? Are they going after Clemson? Those teams have argued about how much revenue sharing they were going to get. Well, if you bring the Big East and merge it with the ACC, you now get a chance for another big TV deal. And we know, Matt, that's all it comes down to is a TV deal and the revenue sharing that all those universities get together.
J-Ron, let's switch to the NBA because I know you are a Knick guy. In one of the articles on the Substack, it's all about the Knicks. I got to ask you as a coach, though, watching Jason Tatum come back from an Achilles injury and play 27 minutes over the weekend against the Cleveland Cavaliers, are you surprised? Are you shocked? What's your reaction to what Jason Tatum has done here just 10 months after a really significant injury?
Am I surprised? Yes. Am I shocked? No. Because Jason Tatum just built like that. And that's just me as a Knicks fan giving utmost respect to a competitor that I think is one of the 10 best players in the NBA. Because it's funny because you look at the fact that Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles maybe a week or 2 weeks after him. Damian Lillard just tore his right before him. And no one talked about those two. But you look at the fact that there was talk. Tatum, I think if I'm not mistaken, man went to, I think, Giannis's doctor because he wanted to be aggressive because he said it from the get-go, Matt, that he wanted to come back for this season. So I'm not surprised. I'm surprised, not shocked. The interesting thing is there's you know what that term, there's levels to this, right? There is Tatum coming back. It's the integration with Jaylen Brown and that whole offense. But then there's the awards race. I really thought, and people may not agree with me or not, I thought Jaylen Brown should have been in the top 5 MVP conversation.
Yep.
Now, if they start winning games and playing well with Tatum, that unfortunately is going to turn and just take away his chances for a guy that really put the team on his back when, let's be honest, Matt, there wasn't a lot of expectations for the Boston Celtics coming into the season with Tatum being out, with Holiday being gone, with Porzingis being gone, with Horford being gone, right? With Luke Cornett being gone. No one taught, and even me, I said, maybe they can find their way to like 6.
I told you.
They have done a great job, and that's the other person that gets impacted is Joe Mazzulla. They talk about Dagnall. They talk about Adelman. They talk about Kenny Atkinson. They talk about J.B. Bickerstaff. And Joe Mazzulla should be right there in the head coach of the year category. Once again, if Boston starts winning and playing really well with Tatum, it's going to hurt their chances. So bet accordingly if you've not bet already.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that there is a dynamic in the locker room because Jaylen Brown is a guy who wants to be beloved, but he can't because it's not his personality. Jason Tatum is beloved because of everything he has accomplished, but he's also a likable guy. And the fans, they love Deuce. They love the story. They love his mom. It's difficult, I think, for Jaylen Brown. It was his team, and now Tatum comes back, and it's all about Jason Tatum. And Brown is still playing at a very high level. And he said, like, there's going to be growing pains. And I was like, well, you went 2-0. You went 2-0 against the spread. You won both games by blowout fashion. It doesn't look like there's going to be growing pains. Yeah. But why are you pointing that out? Like, that seems to be a little interesting that you're like, well, hold on a second.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing with with Brown, because, when we talked about the Celtics, if there was ever a point of someone getting traded, it was always Jaylen Brown. There was the whole talk about, I guess, Tatum trying to get KD and sending Brown. Listen, I'm going to say this, and I may be in the minority. Boston is best served if Batman and Robin can change roles based on matchups.
100%.
And who's playing well.
Yep.
If Tatum comes back and like, yo, I'm the guy, I'm the man, you're running this through me, I don't think it ends well, because then the ego of Jaylen Brown, who's self-proclaimed the best two-way player in the world,
nice.
I don't agree with it, but is he in the top 5?
Well, hold on. He clarified. He said, except for Wemby. He said, because Wemby's not a human. So he said, other than Wemby, I'm the best two-way player in the NBA.
And I would say that he is one of the best two-way players in the NBA. I wouldn't put him 1. I wouldn't put him 2, but he's probably in the top 5 with the way he's played this year and the way Boston defends. But that is also speaks to, respectfully, the ego of Jaylen Brown. So now here comes Jason Tatum in his white horse, and all of Boston is rallying around their beloved leader, and Jaylen Brown is like, whoa, what the F is going on? Like, what did I do the previous 6 months? Like, can I get some love? So I think that's the other thing that is going to have to be tiptoed. And what I've liked about it, I thought it was crazy, and the day of that he got back his first game, I looked at someone and I'm like, 2.5 assists for Jason Tatum? Like, are you serious? Like, if I'm Tatum, I got to ingratiate myself back to these guys, right? The Shiremans that are getting more time. The Gonzalez has done a great job as a rookie. I got to ingratiate myself to these guys. So I may move the ball. That's why I thought, like, the assist market early on for Tatum until the market catches up may be the way to look at it, because I think he's also got to ease his way in offensively. And the last thing you want to do, Matt, is come in for a team playing well and jack up 25 shots. That's going to cause controversy inside the locker room.
Well, look, he scored 20 points and had 27 minutes of action, and he did everything that he looked like Jason Tatum. He looked like a stronger version of Jason Tatum, who's been in the weight room for the last 6 months, because he has been just lifting and not getting to be able to run. I think that was the most eye-popping thing for me, of like, my God, he looked strong. Boston plays San Antonio tonight. Spurs, obviously, one of the best teams in the West, and maybe, besides the Thunder, the best team in the West. What do you make of tonight? Can Boston walk in there and beat Wemby? Because Wemby went to Boston and won by 5 and covered about a month ago.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the amazing thing about San Antonio, and we haven't talked all season, at least on air, is when the season started, we're like, okay, well, they got some parts, right? And I'm going to be honest with you folks, I was in the minority in the De'Aaron Fox trade. I was like, what are they doing? But you see how Coach Johnson has kind of integrated this team. And now you look at San Antonio, you're like, damn, they got like one of the sneakiest, like deepest teams in the league, and they can beat you different ways. They can go 3-guard lineup. They can play Wemby at the 5. They can bring Cornette and go 4-5, where either or can go inside out, high-low combo. So they become dangerous in a sense. If San Antonio loses at home to Celtics, will I be surprised? Absolutely not. But I think it's a good litmus test for both teams coming down the stretch of the year. When you talk about the Western Conference, listen, Oklahoma City was Oklahoma City with 1 loss until they ran into San Antonio, and God damn it, they have not been the same since. Now they're dealing with injuries, but they're also dealing with that 7'5" alien. You're like, I don't know how I can guard that. And not only do I know how I can guard that, I don't know how I can keep him off the boards. I don't know how I can keep him from blocking shots. And I can't imagine a guy taking off almost a free throw line like he did against the Knicks, dunk left-handed, and I think his feet were on the ground when the ball went through the basket.
He's ridiculous. And I mean, I think the Spurs are only 3.5-point favorites at the last time I looked, and I was kind of surprised by that. I think it's a lot of respect to Boston, but I'm high on the Spurs. They've already beaten OKC 3 times. They're not going to be afraid of the Thunder if they wind up matching up. I know the Knicks took them apart, and they did the same thing like 2 weeks ago. The Knicks took them apart, and then in Vegas for the NBA Cup, same thing. So they got to learn how to win. So maybe it's a little bit too early for this Spurs team, but Wemby at some point before it's all done, he wins a championship, right?
Oh, I think it's within 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Matt, would I be shocked if they won a championship this year? No. Wow. I really don't. I don't think they will. I still think Oklahoma City will get what together.
Yeah.
I think that obviously Denver, they have to get everyone healthy. But styles make fights, right? Like I look at a team like the Knicks. I think the Knicks match up better if they were to get to the finals. And I think the East, we'll talk about that. I think the East is wide open. If the Knicks get to the finals, can the Knicks
think it's wide? You after watching Boston, you think it's wide open?
I think. Well, here's the thing. Every team has questions. Okay, Boston, the integration of Tatum, and can they make it work and play that way? And do they get enough at the center position? Even though Kate has been really good as of late, right? The Knicks, there is the Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson question about how they defend, and there's also a New York Knicks team that I will say this as a Knicks fan. Go look it up. When Jalen Brunson shoots less than 20 shots, the Knicks are almost unstoppable. Ball moves, sprays around. They're better defensively because then you don't realize people when you're a 3-and-D guy and you're OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges, when you get the ball and you get some shots off, you get some shots, that defense starts to pick up a little bit because you're getting the ball on the other end of the floor. Cleveland is always going to be, Donovan Mitchell can't get it done in the playoffs. There's only been in one Western Conference Finals. You're pairing him with James Harden, who he's fine until you get to a Game 7, and God damn it, he turns into a freaking pumpkin. And then there's the 2 bigs that I don't know who can play together. There's Philadelphia, who I think is so intriguing.
Really?
Joel Embiid. I think at times it can be intriguing because there was a little point in the season before the All-Star break. I'm like, oh, damn. Joel Embiid looks like Joel Embiid a couple of years ago. And then he didn't. And then Paul George decided that the steroids he was taking, he should have gave it to Embiid because he probably needed it, right? But then, I think and then there's Detroit. A Detroit team that I really want to say this, folks. I want people to understand this as Piston fans. It is great for the NBA when Detroit is good. You need it in that major media market. But excuse my language, I'm gonna curse. I hope I don't get in trouble. Can we cut this shit with Bad Boys Part 3? Like, Bad Boys' first movie was good. They got the number 2, we dug it. Once they got the 3, you're like, maybe it shouldn't be a third one, a trilogy, and we shouldn't go for Bad Boys 4. Why do I say this? We saw the fight with Charlotte. We saw the Stewart and how they're acting. We saw how they tried to roughhouse Wemby and all that stuff. I'm going to explain something to everybody right now. If Detroit thinks that shit is going to fly in the playoffs with 19,000 different media sponsors that have games, they will phone Adam Silver faster than they got rid of the Magic City Night in Atlanta. They get rid of that shit real quick. So just be careful when you think about Detroit as regards to the Bad Boys are back.
Amen. Listen, we're out of time, but go ahead and again, tell people where they can find the Substack. I know they've got some stuff coming out today. It's a big college basketball NBA time of the year. So where can they read your stuff?
Yeah, it's Substack. It says thecoachesedge.substack.com. Make sure you subscribe 3 for 6 days. And I will give you one little teaser.
Okay.
I think you're going to see me a lot more here. So I'm just going to you may not see me, but you'll see me more here.
Don't spoil the surprise, Coach. We'll get into it very, very soon. Good to see you, my friend. We'll talk soon, all right?
My man, thanks
Coach
Matt.
James Young joining us here on BvB. Always intense and fun to get Coach on, and we won't spoil the surprise, but as I talked about it, I don't know, last week, up to something season. Pat McAfee is not the only one who's got up to something season when we got some stuff cooking and going on here for BvB. So I'm going to pivot on news of the industry because I was going to do one story, but something just broke that I want to do a second piece to it for news of the industry. All right, this jumped in during the show, so I can't put it all nice and pretty, but I'll just put it up. This is from a guy in Ohio. A federal judge today ruled that Kalshi is subject to Ohio sports betting law. Kalshi argued the Federal Commodities Exchange Act preempted enforcement of Ohio law. Nope. These quote prediction markets have exploded and look an awful lot like gambling. Big win for Ohio. So we'll see what this means, because we've been waiting for these court judges and federal judges to start to rule with consistency against Kalshi. And frankly, this has been my point forever on this. And at some point, there's going to be enough court cases and federal judges that are going to rule against Kalshi that they're going to most likely, for as long as this administration is in power, I think they will try to get it to the Supreme Court to be able to justify their existence. But it just, logic is being defined by this. And everyone has told the prediction market folks that if you want to operate prediction markets, nobody's telling you should not be able to operate as a prediction marketplace. They're saying that sports gambling is not something you can play around with, that you have to stay away from sports gambling. You can't be involved in sports betting. We have already dictated who is in control of that in states like Ohio, Massachusetts, Nevada. We're now seeing multiple court cases going against the prediction markets, both on the federal level and on the state level. Eventually, I do think it gets all balled up and sent, and it's very similar to the way that daily fantasy, if you guys remember in the beginning parts of DFS, where the states were saying, hey, we think this is gambling and we're going to rule it as such. Remember when New York ruled that DFS was gambling and they didn't allow it to operate in the state, how significant that was? Do you remember that people went to the streets in New York and they went and actually did a whole parade where DraftKings players were pissed off? And so they all met in New York and they all went to the streets to say that it's a game of skill, not a game of chance. This is not gambling. Remember that? Well, I think we're going to be getting into more of these states that are going to take the position where you're not able to operate, and they're going to ban geo-target Kalshi, geo-target Polymarket out of the state. We haven't seen anybody do that yet. We've seen Nevada threaten to do it, and Nevada could be the first state that says Kalshi can't operate. That's been sort of an ongoing thing where the court case has gone against Kalshi, but the implementation of the court case's ruling has not happened yet. So I do think that will happen at some point in the very near future, where we will see them stop operating. And that then creates a problem for the CEA, which is the Exchange Act, which basically sits there and you must be operating in all 50 states to be compliant with that. And so that's a problem for the prediction marketplaces or Kalshi or anybody else. If they can't operate in Nevada, you can't operate in all 50 states. Thus, you are not in compliance with federal law to operate a prediction marketplace. So we're seeing more. I mean, Underdog just made a really big splash yesterday by going and acquiring a CFTC legal licensed prediction market company. So they're going more head first into all of this. I'm really seeing what's going to happen in the future. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun to get into it watching this. I mean, again, I don't care. The prediction marketplace is, if people are gambling with prediction markets, I'm fine with it. You just can't tell me it's not sports gambling. As long as you say I'm operating a sports betting account, my company is a prediction marketplace in which you can come and sports bet. You can also do other things, but you can come and sports bet. I'm fine with it. If that's where we go to bet on elections, I'm fine with that. I don't like state elections. I like federal elections, but I'm fine with that. If that's where we go to create markets for the Oscars or markets for other things, insider trading is a big problem. So I do think the CFTC needs to massively staff up and have a very robust and large enforcement staff that can find bad actors and prosecute bad actors. But I'm not against prediction markets. I am against Kalshi's marketing. I am against that. I am against the way that they have put themselves into a place where we're going to kill Vegas. Anybody who says that, I just laugh, and I'm just like, it makes no sense. It's stupid to even say something like that, but that's my frustration with companies that like to think that they have some type of Remember, Kalshi called themselves a movement. Like legit. They said, we're a movement. Sure. Okay. You're a movement. You're a book. That's what you are. You're a sports book. My thanks to JY from coming in tomorrow on the program. If you guys are watching on the replay on Sports Grid tomorrow, it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know how many I do edit this audio. We leave in everything except F-bombs. That's kind of what we leave in for swears. I don't know what tomorrow will bring with Emerson Latzia. Oh my, but Fitzy's coming along board. It's a NFL Frenzy free agency roundtable happening tomorrow on the new league year day. Tomorrow, join us tomorrow on the replay on Sports Grid. If you guys are watching live, though, don't move. Bonus time starts now. You guys are funny in the chat. You're talking about no, that's not what's coming. It's not Bostonian versus the coach. That's not happening. JY is not hosting for the tournament, not at least on this show. And we're not burying the lead. We're just sort of setting you guys up for some stuff that's going to be happening. I told you guys that I've been working on a bunch of stuff. I can't say it on Sports Grid, so we're off Sports Grid, so I can talk about it a little bit more differently on that. But I told you we're trying, guys. Okay, we're trying to grow. We're trying to take advantage of 2026. We're trying to make some changes and some additions to take what you guys have enabled us with the brigade and really grow, right? I mean, the proxy service was sort of the first iteration of that with the brigade proxy service. And the future of that is still very much up in the air. I don't know what really happens with the proxy service, to be frank, going into next year. Obviously, Dave passing away was tough and changed everything. And he was the catalyst for the proxy service. Dave was the trusted voice for the proxy service. And I loved doing it and loved going over to his house. And it was such a fun way to spend every Saturday with Dave. And the 2 times I loved, obviously being on air with Dave was incredible. But after being on air, the 2 times I looked forward to the most is what I love traveling with Dave. He and I just had so much fun traveling together and getting into trouble and just having a ton of fun. And then I loved going over to his house and being there with his family and doing the picks and talking to you guys who from the brigade who were part of the brigade proxy service, getting your picks and talking about games and watching college football with Dave and, watching Penn State games with Dave and live betting with Dave. Like those are the times that I will never forget and I will cherish. And I did not know how special they were while they were happening. That's the nature of life. But, so we're trying to grow. So I'll give you some ideas as to what's going to happen. I will have an announcement ish. Thank you for the reminder. We're putting it together. So what we're going to do and I'll make like an official announcement probably tomorrow on the show for what we're doing for the tournament, but we are going to do a against the spread survivor contest for the tournament. All right. So you're going to have to pick a winner every day, but not a straight up winner. You're going to have to pick a side winner every day to stay alive. It's going to be a winner take all situation. It's going to be $25 to enter, and it's going to be winner take all. So there's going to be multiple entries. We haven't determined how many entries yet that we're going to wind up doing, but we're going to do it against the spread for the NCAA tournament. And it will start on not Dayton days. It will start on Thursday. So it'll start a week from Thursday for the NCAA tournament. So the Brigade Bracket Madness ATS tournaments survivor pool in some form or fashion. We'll have more information about all that. It is going to be through Splash Sports. So it is going to we're going to have to look and see what states it is going to be available. So pending your state being legal to go ahead and run that contest. But that's what we're doing for the NCAA tournaments. We are doing a bracket contest and we're going to have some fun with it. So just got to put some final touches together on that in the next couple of hours. Once we get done, I'll hopefully have some more information coming up for that. So bracket tournament to be announced for starting a week from Thursday for the NCAA tournament. It's a survivor pool, but against the spread. You pick one game, one spread. Sport Radar, in case you're curious, I asked the question. I was like, well, whose book are you going to use? It's going to be a consensus number from Sport Radar in terms of what every kind of everything that's going to go in. So it's going to be fun. The host site will be off of, most likely there'll be a direct link off of BvB, off the BvBshow.com. But I'll tell you all that coming up here soon. So don't worry about all that information will be there. So yeah, so if you already use Splash Sports, it's legal in your state, then we'll be running it through Splash Sports. So like other years, we'll do that. We'll run it through off Splash Sports coming up here for today. I gave you 3 bets in the opening line. I'll give you 2 NBA plays. It is time for the Just the Pick segment, being brought to you by the Betting Pros Prop Bet Cheat Sheet tonight with the NBA. You can log on to bettingpros.com/NBA props or download the Betting Pros app and search the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet to go ahead and see what's happening for the NBA tonight. We talked about the Pistons. I like the under tonight with Detroit and Brooklyn because I think Detroit has a real possibility of blowing out the Nets. The number is 14.5. It's really high. This number has ticked up, I think, at last look. Let me give you an up-to-date number. This was last night when I bet the 216. It's currently, it's 216.5, some 217s. So it opened 217. There's a couple of 217. FanDuel's at 217.5. So FanDuel's seeing some over money come in the game. But I think the game goes under because it's going to be a blowout. Circa's up to 15. I just don't think the Nets score. I think the Nets score 90 points tonight. I think Detroit scores 110, 115 points. I don't mind laying the 15 points. I just don't really enjoy that with the NBA, given the ticky-tack nature of fouls and free throws and three-point shots at buzzers and whatnot. So too big of a number for me to get involved with from a side perspective, but I'm going to go under 216.5. And it's the same bet, different teams for Boston and San Antonio. Boston's been an under machine. San Antonio equally is an under machine at home. The game in Boston was 100-95. That game went under. No Jason Tatum. Boston plays more slow style of basketball, when they have Tatum on the floor. So I think that game's going to be even more low scoring than the first matchup was. Going under 225.5 for Boston and San Antonio. Right now, that number is sitting there at 221.5. So so there is some people betting the under on this game. It's moved it down a point, but I still think you can play it at 221.5. I like Boston and San Antonio to go under 221.5. Time for my favorite thing about today. Ooh, where's that? There it is. Favorite thing about today, JY's appearance in this week. There's certain weeks that I get really excited about what we've got coming down the pike. Talking, obviously, JY is really fun. Getting NBA insights and information from him. Definitely go check out his Substack if you've not done that as well. I highly recommend it. It's going to be really fun. He is a guy who is a very unique person in the space. And I love that he's going to branch out and start to do his own stuff, because a guy who knows betting and basketball, but a guy who can talk about the game intelligently, but also understand the way that lines are being made based on how the game is being played. That is a very unique person, a very unique talent that I don't think people really have given enough attention to. And, that's JY is the type of person that I want to do a lot of stuff with. He's the type of person that I want to be in business with, type of person that I want to highlight. There's more. And I've had numerous conversations with people over the last 4 months about the space. And we talked about it a couple of days ago about the sports gambling industry and what exactly is going on in the sports gambling content space. And the companies, and so the content did not prove out to be valuable to those books. And so the books have decided, well, we're going to stop spending money in content because it did not deliver the customers that we are interested in acquiring. Well, as the education arc continues in sports gambling for Americans, as people start to figure things out, guys like JY become more and more valuable, because now we're talking about somebody who speaks the language to what everyone else is already talking about, but he's going to teach you things that we're not looking at. He's going to see things from a coaching perspective. He's going to see games in the NCAA tournament differently. He's going to see NBA matchups and how the playoffs go. He's going to see those things differently. And that, I think, elevates everyone in the sports gambling space. The problem with the sports gambling content space is that it is lowest common denominator. It is bouncing breasts and just people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And that's a problem. And that has been a problem. And it's why the content space has really dried up. And so the company that I want to keep and the business that I want to develop and the people that I want to highlight are people who know what the fuck they're talking about, who understand the game on both sides from a better and from an actual play perspective. People that have opinion, people that are very opinionated, but also can back it up with factual information, and people that are entertaining as all hell. And JY is entertaining as all hell. And guys like that, I feel like there's so many talented people who are homeless at the moment as to where they are and where they're living. And I've told so many of them to go and do your own thing. Do your own thing. And then they've come to me and they've said, well, what if we do it with you? And I've said, okay, let's talk. And so I've had numerous conversations with people, and some of them are interested. Some of them are not. Some of them, we go to stage 2 or stage 3. Some of them die, right with the first conversation. I've had people turn me down point blank. I've approached people that I've respected who have been on this show, who I've had conversations on anything like, look, why don't we find a way to do stuff together? And they've been like, look, I'm just uninterested. I'm out of the business. The business killed me. And I watch that time and time again right now. And I feel for people who are either unable to do other things that pay them enough so they can do the content, because I've told you guys this before, there is no BvB without what Betting Pros has presented to me and my family. And I will be 100% thankful for the ability to grow BvB as a seed in the ground, to watch it come out and sprout and actually grow. That beanstalk doesn't even get out of the ground without what Betting Pros has enabled me to do. And we're talking about going all the way back to the origins of BvB. And then when we got it got cut loose and we didn't know what to do. We lost our job. We lost all of our health insurance. For me, it was 2 years of uncertainty. And now getting to work with the folks at Betting Pros and learning about them. And I've become such a better gambler, host, everything, learning about AI and learning about the future of the industry in terms of what we're going to do and what we're all going to be as human beings in this world. I've learned so much from Betting Pros that without them, there is no, so like JY's got his coaching. JY has his teaching. Like he's got other things that he does, but he loves the content space and wants to do the content space. So some people can do that. Some people can't. And I respect that. And I understand that. But the corporate overlords that have dictated so much for what the content you guys are going to consume, I want this entity and whatever we turn this thing into in the next 12 to 18 months, I want this to be a place where you guys always feel like you have a home and you're going to get content that's unique and different than what you're seeing out there. And it's unfiltered, unscripted, and no one's telling us what to think or say ever. That regardless of the sponsors, regardless of who gets involved with us, that you will never hear us be paid. I've said this 1,000 times. This show is for sale in every which way and sideways. My opinion is not. And I tell that to anybody who ever works with this channel, with this show as we go forward. That is how I will operate the business of the next iteration of this channel and show, is that everything is for sale. I'll take money from anyone. I will never tell anyone what to think or say, period. And I've told this before. If Kalshi wants to come in and sponsor the show, come on in, sponsor the show. The show is for sale. My opinion is not. So that's the operating principle. And so I'm super excited about what's going to happen. I'm jumping to the East Coast for Friday after again, the show is early on Friday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Adam Bjorn will be on Friday now, not on Thursday. He'll move to Friday. But it's been a very stressful time, but I am bouncing back and forth. Yes. I am excited to see, that with bouncing boobs. Yeah. That's just what it is, right? Call a spade, right? It's what the content space has been. That's who's getting paid. And they're friends of ours. I'm friends of mine. I'm not knocking it. If I had it, I'd do it too. I don't have it. Don't think you guys would like walking bets with me, but that's the nature of the business, right? Outfit of the day type stuff. No history, no record, no accountability, nothing. Zero. Nothing, right? No tracking. Here are 3 bets. I went 0-3. Here are 3 bets. I went 0-3. Here are 3 bets. I went 0-3, right? No mention of it. Just 3 bets, 3 bets, 3 bets. Eyeballs. I'm not going to deliver the most eyeballs. People don't like looking at me, rightfully so. But I hope they care what we think, what we say, and what we present every day, because it is and will always be about entertainment. That's what this whole thing is. It started it. It will end it. Why is there content? Because it's supposed to be fucking fun. That's why. And if it's not fun, if you aren't having fun, then I'm not doing my job. So, having guys like JY, awesome. Tomorrow, if tomorrow's not fun, I don't know what we're doing. We're doing something wrong. Fitzy, WEEI, Emerson Latzia, DraftKings, DK Sportsbook, the guy who now gets sent out all over the country to go hobnob with all the DraftKings bigwigs. It's pretty damn fun. His job is awesome. Emerson's job, I don't know how he got his job, but I want Emerson's job. Emerson's job is awesome. He gets to be flown around and interview famous people and athletes and go to Aspen, Colorado, and go to New Orleans for Mardi Gras and go skiing in upstate Maine. Like, we'll have Emerson tell us tomorrow what he's been doing, but his gig with DraftKings, and now he's the face of them on all their commercials. Emerson's gig with DK is pretty damn cool. So, thumbs up to Emerson, but he'll join us tomorrow on the program. Hopefully you guys will too. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Thanks to BetCris Arizona for sponsoring and letting us do this show each and every day. They've been phenomenal. Adam Bjorn joins us on Friday for the program, but back tomorrow for a Wednesday's episode of BvB presented by BetCris Arizona.